My 7-year-old son needed life-saving treatment. I asked my parents for help, but they swore they had no money. Months later, I discovered they spent nearly $500,000 on my sister's dream house. The confrontation. At Sunday dinner ripped the entire family apart in ways nobody expected. Hey Reddit, thought my family drama was over years ago. Turns out I was wrong. It started with my parents picking sides when things got rough, and it all blew up way bigger than I ever expected. Before I get to the chaos, let me back up to the beginning. Name's Ryan. I'm 36. Been at the warehouse 11 years now. Run forklifts. Train new guys when they don't quit after a week. Nights mostly. Apartment on the east side, 2 rooms, 1 bath, carpet older than me. My wife is Leah. Only real thing that mattered was Noah, our boy. Noah was 7 that spring. Skinny kid, loved drawing trucks, hated carrots, could name every dinosaur from memory. Around March, he started saying his stomach hurt. At first, Leah thought maybe something he ate. I thought maybe nerves. He hated school mornings. Then he stopped wanting to go outside, started looking pale. We took him to the pediatrician. Blood work, x-rays, the usual runaround. They sent us to the ER one night when the fever wouldn't break. 2 days later, a doctor we'd never met pulled us into a small office with no windows. He had a folder in his hand, and that look people get when they're about to tell you something you'll never forget. Stage 4, neuroblastoma. He kept talking. Treatment plans, chemo, possible surgery, something about stem cells. Said we needed to start right away. I just sat there staring at the folder. The first round started that week. Port in his chest. Hair gone by the second cycle. The nurses gave him stickers for being brave. He wore a dinosaur beanie Leah ordered online. He smiled for her, but not much for anyone else. By month 2, the bills started coming. Insurance covered some, then less, then stopped. The doctor said the next phase involved a clinical trial. The kind insurance loves to deny. $45,000. If we started fast, there was a chance. Without it, odds were near zero. Leah sat across from me in the cafeteria, hands around a paper coffee cup. What do we do? She asked. I'll call my parents, I said. Mom picked up on the second ring. Hey, Mom. Listen, we need help. It's $45,000 for the next treatment. Doctor says it could save his life. Long pause. I could hear the TV in the background, Dad coughing. Ryan, she said finally, you know we're on a fixed income. Your father's retirement isn't what we hoped for. It's a loan. I'll pay back every cent. Dad came on the line then, voice steady like always. Son, we don't have that kind of money sitting around. You should look into hospital programs. Maybe charities. There's places that help families in your situation. Dad, I said, he needs it now. I'm sorry, he said. We can't. That was the whole call. I sold my truck the next week. Leah's parents mortgaged their house, the one with the broken porch swing. They canceled the anniversary trip they'd been planning for years. My boss advanced me nearly a year's worth of pay. We started a GoFundMe. $10 here, 20 there, people writing praying for you in the comments. Strangers did more for us than my own family. We scraped it together. Barely. While all this was happening, Jessica, my sister, and her husband Brad were building their dream house in the suburbs. Big place, 4-car garage, pool in the backyard. Mom sent group texts with photos of the progress. Dad bragged about helping with the house and getting them set up right. Said it was a gift to get them started. One night, Leah was sitting next to Noah's hospital bed, scrolling through her phone. She held the screen up to me. It was Jessica's latest post. Her standing on the framed-out deck, holding a glass of wine. Caption said, "Can't wait for summer by the pool." Noah was throwing up into a plastic basin while I looked at that picture. Family came by the hospital twice early on. Brought balloons the first time. Stayed maybe an hour. Second time, they brought magazines and left before dinner because the kids had school in the morning. After that, it was just texts from Mom saying they were praying. One afternoon, Dad called while I was sitting in the hall outside Noah's room. He talked for 10 minutes about picking out tile for Jessica's kitchen. Said the contractor was giving them trouble about the backsplash. Then he asked how Noah was doing, like it was an afterthought. Same, I said. Tired. Sick. Dad said the hospital was a depressing place. Said he couldn't handle visiting too much. Leah's parents stopped by almost every day. Brought sandwiches, sat with Noah so we could shower. Her dad fixed the door handle in our apartment one weekend because it was coming loose. They never complained. Not once. By September, the house was finished. Mom sent a picture of Jessica and Brad holding a giant fake key in the driveway. Big smiles, new Tesla parked out front. Under the photo, she typed, "We took care of the taxes and HOA for the first year. New build is stressful enough." I stared at that line until the screen dimmed. That same day, Noah started the clinical trial we'd begged and borrowed to pay for. He was so small by then, the nurses had to weigh him twice because the number didn't look right the first time. He still tried to smile when Leah brought him dinosaur stickers. I looked at that picture of the house again that night, the pool glowing blue under string lights, and thought about the call where my parents said they couldn't help. Then I put the phone away because Noah was awake and wanted me to sit with him. 3 months later, he was gone. Funeral was small, closed casket. My parents came, stood in the back, left early because Jessica's kids had a soccer game. In January, I was at the hospital dropping off some paperwork for a fundraiser. Leah's coworkers were putting together for childhood cancer research. Walking through the cafeteria, I stopped for a coffee I didn't even want because I hadn't slept much. That's when I heard it. 2 guys in line ahead of me were talking about construction jobs from last summer. One of them, older guy in a Carhartt jacket, said, "Yeah, that big place off Meadow Ridge? Custom build. Owners didn't even need a loan. Parents paid for the whole thing in cash. Frank and Elaine something. Lucky kids." I froze. Frank and Elaine. My parents. They kept talking about roof trusses, granite countertops, heated floors. I just stood there with my cup, heart pounding. It had to be them. How many Franks and Elaines write 6-figure checks for houses in this town? I left without the coffee. I sat in the parking garage in the driver's seat for a long time, breathing slow because I didn't want to think what I was thinking. Maybe it wasn't true. Maybe he had the names wrong. Maybe it was a partial loan, not everything. But I couldn't shake the way he said cash. That night after work, I went online. County property records are public if you know where to look. Took me 10 minutes to find Jessica and Brad's address. Another 2 to pull the deed. There it was in black and white. Deed shows consideration $482,000 with no deed of trust recorded. Cash purchase. The county index listed no liens. My parents. I just stared at the screen. $45,000 for Noah. That was what I begged for. What I sold my truck for. What Leah's parents mortgaged their house for. My parents said they didn't have it. Said they were on a fixed income. Said they wished they could help but couldn't. While wiring nearly $500,000 to Jessica and Brad so they could have a pool and a 4-car garage. My phone buzzed while I sat there. Family group chat. Picture from Jessica's living room. All decorated for Christmas. Stockings on the mantle. Huge tree in the corner with color-matched ornaments. I closed my laptop before I broke it. All night I kept remembering things I hadn't let myself think about in a while. The time I called Mom from the hospital asking for help with gas money because before I sold the truck, I was sleeping in it some nights instead of driving back and forth. She said things were tight with the economy and all. The funeral lunch. Me and Leah sitting there with people from her side of the family, while Dad talked to Uncle Roy about paying Jessica's property taxes and how her neighborhood had such good resale value. I guess I'd blocked half of it out because thinking about it hurt too much. Next shift at work, I kept dropping things. Pallet jack, scanner gun, my keys twice. Couldn't keep my head straight. Around noon, I went to the break room for water, and the whole place tilted sideways on me. I grabbed the edge of the vending machine and sat down on the floor before I hit it. "Hey, easy," someone said. It was Pete, one of the older guys. Retired once, came back part-time because he got bored at home. Gray hair, walks with a limp from some accident years ago. Good guy. "You all right?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied, even though my hands were shaking. He sat across from me on a milk crate. "You don't look all right," I told him. Not everything, but enough. That my folks told me they didn't have money for Noah's treatment. That last night I found out they bought Jessica and Brad's house outright. Pete listened without interrupting. When I was done, he scratched his chin. "You got proof?" "Property records," I said. "Bank transfers too if I can get copies." "Then get every scrap you can," he said. "Dates, amounts, all of it. Write it down. People talk their way out of things like this if you don't have it on paper. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it." "Figure that out later," he said. "First, get the facts. No yelling, no scenes. Just proof." He handed me his water bottle. "Drink. You look like you might pass out." I drank. Hands were still shaking. After work, I drove past Jessica's neighborhood. Big houses with perfect lawns even in winter. Christmas lights still up. SUVs in the driveways. Hers was the one with the wide porch and double front doors. I sat there across the street with the engine running, staring at the place my parents had bought while I ate gas station pretzels for dinner on nights Noah was in the hospital. Next day, I printed the property record, highlighted the transfer amount, wrote the date Noah was diagnosed underneath in red pen. Because if I was going to do this, I was going to make sure nobody could pretend they forgot how it all lined up. After I printed the property record, I couldn't stop looking at it. $482,000. Paid in full. Date stamped right there. I started gathering everything I could. Bank transfers I had access to. Screenshots from the family group chat. Pictures of Jessica and Brad's dream home that Mom sent while Noah was throwing up in a hospital bed. I made a folder, labeled it Receipts, stuffed every page in there. The memories came while I was collecting all this. Stuff I hadn't thought about since it happened. One day, Mom texted a picture of her and Jessica picking out curtains for the new house. Said something about how excited she was for the housewarming party once the construction was done. I remember staring at that text in the hospital lobby thinking, what party? 2 weeks before Noah died, Jessica sent a message in the group chat. Hey everyone! Come tour the house this weekend. It'll be fun and might lift spirits. I was sitting next to Noah while he was hooked up to an IV when that came through. He was too weak to talk much by then. Leah read the message over my shoulder and just shook her head. I didn't reply. Nobody from my side did. Then the funeral happened. Small church, closed casket, cold day in November. Leah's parents sat in the front row. Mine sat toward the back with Jessica's family. 2 weeks later, Jessica posted in the group chat again, "Pool's finally heated. Come by Sunday for the first swim." Leah saw it before I did. She held up her phone and said, "You seeing this?" Dad texted under it, "Might be good for everyone to move forward. Noah wouldn't want us living in the past." Leah didn't say anything else. Just set the phone down on the table like it was hot. That was around the time she stopped wearing her wedding ring. By April the following year, we were signing papers at the courthouse. Divorce wasn't dramatic, just both of us too tired to keep carrying the same grief under one roof. Leah moved in with her parents for a while. I stayed in the apartment. Nights got real quiet after that. Now, with these receipts in my hand, the anger came back fresh. I sat down at the library computer one afternoon and printed everything I could find. I wrote dates on everything, lined them up on my kitchen table in order: Noah's diagnosis, my call for help, the wire transfer for the housewarming party, the funeral, the pool invite. Looked like a timeline someone would show a jury. One evening I drove out to Leah's place. She came outside wearing a hoodie, hair pulled back, looked tired but calmer than I'd seen her in a long time. "I need to show you something," I said. We sat in her driveway with the folder open between us. She flipped through the pages slowly, face blank the whole time. When she finished, she closed it and handed it back. "I'm not surprised," she said. "You knew?" "No," she said. "But I had a feeling. The way they acted while Noah was sick, it was like he was an obligation. The house was exciting. He wasn't." She leaned back against the car door. "What are you going to do?" "Confront them," I said. "Good," she said. "Someone should." On the way home, I stopped at the warehouse to talk to Pete. Found him in the break room eating from a plastic container like always. "Got everything," I told him, dropping the folder on the table. He wiped his hands on a napkin. "So what's the plan?" "Sunday dinner. They keep inviting me. I'll go." As he nodded like that made sense. "I want them to say it out loud," I said. "Then don't go in there swinging," he told me. "Lay it out. Dates, numbers, all of it. Make them read it. People hang themselves just fine when you give them the rope." I nodded. Pete pushed the folder back toward me. "And don't yell," he said. "Yelling gives them something to hide behind." I drove home thinking about that. About the stack of papers on my passenger seat. About Jessica's pool party text. About Dad telling me to move forward. Sunday dinner was 4 days away. I didn't text them back yet. Let them think I was coming to eat pot roast and talk about the weather. I pulled up to the house right at 6. Cold air, lights glowing from the windows, cars already in the driveway. Jessica's SUV, Brad's Tesla, my parents' sedan. Inside smelled like pot roast. Same smell as every Sunday dinner growing up. Through the front window, I saw the kids in the living room, faces lit by tablets, sound from some cartoon blaring. I parked on the street and grabbed the folder from the passenger seat. Thick now with everything I'd collected: property records, screenshots, dates in red pen. Mom opened the door before I knocked. "Ryan," she said, smiling like nothing had ever happened. "We're just sitting down." I nodded, stepped inside. Heat from the kitchen hit me, mixed with the smell of meat and gravy. Jessica was in the dining room, setting out plates. Brad poured wine into glasses. Both looked relaxed, like people in a commercial for life insurance. "Hey, man," Brad said. I didn't answer. Dad sat at the head of the table, scrolling on his phone. He looked up when I walked in. "Glad you could make it," he said. I put the folder on the table in front of my seat. Didn't open it yet. Mom brought the pot roast from the kitchen. "Let's eat while it's hot," she said. Everyone sat. Kids wandered in, still looking at their screens. Jessica told them to put the tablets down. They didn't. For a few minutes, it was normal dinner noise. Plates passing, chairs creaking, Mom asking if I wanted potatoes. I waited until everyone had food. Then I opened the folder and slid the first page across the table toward my dad. Property record, big black letters, $482,000. What's this? He asked, frowning. Read it, I said. Mom looked at the page, then at me. Ryan, read who paid for your house, I said, voice flat. Brad leaned over to look. Jessica set her fork down. Dad's eyes moved over the page. He didn't say anything. That's the down payment? I asked. Or the whole thing? Nobody answered. I pulled out the bank transfer copy, slid that across too. This is the rest of it, I said. From your account, all of it, while I was selling my truck to pay for Noah's treatment. Jessica looked at our parents. Is this true? Mom's face crumpled. We were already helping with the house, she said. It was complicated. Complicated, I repeated. So you were too committed to the granite countertops to help your grandson breathe? That's not fair, Mom said, voice breaking. Dad finally spoke. We couldn't just back out of the house deal, Ryan. It was all arranged. I stared at him. You could have said no before arranging it. Or after. Any time, really, before the part where your grandson died. Brad shifted uncomfortably. Jessica whispered, Mom, Dad, seriously? Mom's eyes were wet now. You thought what? I said. That a pool was more important than a kid's life? Ryan, Dad said sharply. That's not what we're saying. I tapped the page with one finger. Feels like what you're saying. Mom reached toward me. We didn't think the treatment would work, she said. The doctors gave him such low odds. And, I said. Dad set his fork down hard. Spending that kind of money with those odds would have been throwing it away. The room went dead silent. Jessica's kids stopped eating, staring at him with wide eyes. Brad froze with his wine glass halfway to his mouth. Even Dad seemed to realize what he'd said. His jaw tightened like he wanted to take it back, but the words were out there now, heavy and ugly. I looked at him, then at Mom. Throwing it away, I said slowly. That's what he was to you. No, Mom said, shaking her head, tears running now. That's not... He was 7, I said. Jessica spoke then, voice trembling. I didn't know you paid for the whole house. I thought you helped a little. I turned to her. You knew we were begging for money. You knew we were drowning. Did you ever ask where the money was coming from while you picked out tile for the kitchen? She didn't answer. Dad pushed his chair back. This isn't the place for a scene, he said. I looked at the kids. They were staring at all of us, not understanding, but scared anyway. This isn't on you, I told them. None of this is your fault. They nodded slowly, eyes big. Mom tried again. Ryan, please, we thought we were making the right decision. I stood, gathering the papers back into the folder. You made a decision, I said. Right or wrong isn't the point. You chose a house over your grandson's life, and now we all know it. Ryan, Dad started, but I was already heading for the door. Jessica called after me. Wait, I didn't. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. I walked to my car, folder under my arm, hands steady now for the first time in days. Inside the house, voices were rising. Mom crying, Jessica asking questions, Dad trying to talk over both of them. I started the engine, pulled away from the curb, didn't look back. The phone started before I was even home. First Mom. 3 missed calls in a row, then a text. Ryan, please answer. We need to talk. This is a misunderstanding. Then Dad. Call me back. You're upset. We can explain. By the time I parked, Jessica was calling too. I turned the whole thing off, shoved it in a drawer, and left it there buzzing. That night, someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. Jessica. She stood there hugging herself in the hallway, eyes red. I opened the door halfway but didn't invite her in. Ryan, she said. Please. I didn't know. You lived in the house, I said. Where did you think the money came from? Fairy godmother? We thought Mom and Dad helped with part of it, she said quickly. Brad handled the paperwork. I didn't ask questions. I stared at her. While we were selling my truck for gas money, you didn't ask once? Not even when they bragged about paying for your pool heater? She flinched. I didn't know it was that much. Right, I said. She started crying. Look, Dad said last night they were afraid the treatment wouldn't work. They thought giving us the house was at least something lasting. I laughed once. It didn't sound right. Lasting, I said. Yeah, granite countertops last longer than kids, I guess. Ryan, stop, she said. I pushed the door closed. Don't come back here. Through the door, she said, I'm sorry for everything. Then her footsteps faded down the hall. I didn't answer any calls the next 2 days. They filled my voicemail box anyway. On the third day, an email from Jessica came in. I deleted it without reading. 2 nights later, the twist hit. Patricia caught me at work during lunch. "That sister of yours?" she said. "Is she all right?" I frowned. "Why?" "She was in here this morning asking about job openings," Patricia said. "Said things are rough at home." I didn't know what she meant until later when Brad called from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. "This is Brad. Look, Jessica moved in with your parents last night. Things blew up. Money stuff. The house. It's complicated. Just letting you know before you hear it somewhere else." I deleted the message. The next morning, another email slipped through before I blocked Brad's account too. He said they were selling the house. Couldn't keep up with taxes, utilities, everything now that my parents stopped covering the property taxes and utilities like they had been. So that was the twist. My parents cut them off. Probably after I left dinner with the folder on the table, after Jessica yelled at them, after Brad stormed out. Jessica got her dream house, and now it was eating them alive. I didn't reply to any of it. Mom sent one more text from a new number. "Ryan, please talk to us. We love you. This family is broken." I deleted that too. That weekend, I drove past the house one last time. For sale sign planted in the perfect front lawn. Pool covers strapped down tight for winter. Lights off in half the windows. I sat there with the engine idling, watching it through the windshield. They paid almost $500,000 for this place. Watched their grandson die while they signed the checks. Told me there wasn't money for his treatment. Now they couldn't even keep it. I put the car in gear and drove away. In early March on a Monday, I called a lawyer. Small office in town, strip mall location between a tax place and a nail salon. No fancy ads. Just a name and a phone number Leah's dad gave me because he used the guy years back for some contractor dispute. Receptionist set me up for a free consult. The lawyer, Dan Collins, looked mid-50s, tired eyes, suit a little frayed at the cuffs. He shook my hand, sat me down, and asked for the folder. I gave it to him. Property records, bank transfers, screenshots, the GoFundMe totals, medical bills, the whole thing. He flipped through everything carefully, one page at a time. Didn't rush. When he finished, he leaned back. "So let me make sure I understand," he said. "You asked your parents for money for your son's treatment. They said no. Meanwhile, they paid cash for your sister's house. You borrowed, sold property, took loans, all to cover treatment costs yourself, correct?" "Yeah. And now you're in debt?" "Some," I said. "Leah's parents are too. They mortgaged their place to help. I'm still paying off a medical loan with interest that should be illegal." He nodded slowly. "Okay, here's the thing. Morally, what they did stinks. Legally, it's tricky. There's no law saying someone has to help family financially, even if they have the means." I felt my jaw tighten. "So nothing I can do?" "Not exactly nothing," he said. "Couple of angles we could look at. One, if they made any kind of written promise to help and you relied on that promise, took on debt expecting reimbursement. You might have a claim under what's called promissory estoppel, but it hinges on proof of the promise. Texts, emails, voicemails. Do you have anything like that?" I shook my head. Everything was over the phone. They were careful like that. "Then that's probably a dead end," he said. Second angle, if they handled any of Noah's medical fundraising money and misused it, that's a whole different thing. But you said they didn't contribute much, right? $200 on GoFundMe, I said flatly. He nodded again. So probably clean there too. I sat there, heat creeping up my neck. "But," he said, holding up a finger, "you might still have leverage. Public exposure, civil pressure. Families like this hate courtrooms, even if they'd win, because discovery drags out every financial record. Sometimes that alone brings people to the table. Settlements happen because folks don't want dirty laundry aired." That made me pause. "So I can't sue them for the money outright, but I can make them nervous enough to settle?" "Exactly," he said. "We'd frame it around equitable reimbursement. Show the debts you took on. Show their capacity to help. Make it look real bad for them on paper. Sometimes people write checks just to make that go away." I thought about Dad and his golf buddies. Mom at church every Sunday bragging about donations to charity drives. Yeah, they'd hate this going public. "What's it cost to start?" I asked. "Retainers $1,500, he said. "If it settles fast, you might even get that back from them as part of the deal." I told him I'd think on it. After the meeting, I drove to Leah's parents' house. Her dad was in the driveway changing the oil on his old pickup. Her mom waved from the porch when she saw me. "How'd it go?" her dad asked, wiping his hands. "Complicated," I said. I explained what the lawyer told me. No easy win, but pressure might work. Her dad shook his head. "Figures. People like your folks fold quick when their reputation's on the line. They care more about appearances than anything else. Leah came outside then, hands in her hoodie pocket. You gonna do it? She asked. Thinking about it, I said. She nodded like that was the answer she expected. Inside, her mom handed me an envelope, bank statement for their mortgage. Still paying every month for the loan they took to help Noah. Thousands left. They should be the ones covering this, she said quietly. Not us. I didn't have an answer for that. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the folder and a legal pad. On one side, medical loan balance, Leah's parents' mortgage total, credit card debt from gas, hotels, food during treatment. On the other side, property records showing my parents' $500,000 gift for Jessica's house. The numbers looked insane next to each other. I called Dan the next morning. Do it, I said. Send the letter. Make them sweat. He said he'd draft it that week. While he worked on that, I started something else. There was still a little GoFundMe money left after bills. A few $100 people had sent too late to help with treatment. Leah's parents said to keep it. I didn't want it sitting there like loose change after everything. So I used it to open a separate account. Called it Noah's Way Fund. Idea was simple. Gas cards, hotel vouchers, grocery money for families traveling for their kids' treatment. Small stuff nobody thinks about until they're in the middle of it. Leah helped set up a Facebook page. Her mom shared it with everyone from her church. My boss at the warehouse taped the info to the break room fridge. First week we raised $600. Second week, 1,000. None of it erased what happened, but it was something that didn't feel rotten. By the end of March, Dan sent copies of the letter to my parents and Jessica. Laid out every debt, every receipt, the property records, suggested informal resolution before further action. I heard nothing for 2 days. Then Brad called from another new number I didn't recognize. They're freaking out, he said without introduction. Your dad's talking about getting his own lawyer. Your mom won't stop crying. Not my problem, I said. They might settle, he said, just to keep it quiet. I hung up without answering. In June, 3 months after the letter, my parents wrote a check, enough to clear the medical loan and pay off Leah's parents' mortgage. No apology note, no phone call, just a cashier's check in an envelope through Dan's office. He said they wanted it handled quietly. I took the check to the bank, paid off what needed paying, then mailed Leah's parents the rest with a copy of the mortgage release. They called me crying, saying it was a blessing. I didn't tell them where the money came from. By July, the for sale sign came down, under contract. It sold at a loss later that summer. Brad moved into an apartment across town. Jessica took the kids to live with my parents for a while. Public school, no pool, no Tesla. I didn't hear from any of them for nearly a year. Then Dad got sick. Lung cancer. Stage 3. Decades of smoking catching up fast. Jessica texted from a number I hadn't blocked yet. Ryan, it's Jessica. Dad's in the hospital. The doctors say it's serious. He asked for you. Said he wants to talk while he still can. Please, just come. I stared at the screen for a long time before putting the phone down. Waited a full day before going. Same hospital where Noah spent his last months. Same smell of antiseptic. Same cold hallways. I stood outside Dad's room for a minute, reading Jessica's message again, before finally pushing the door open. He looked small in the bed, oxygen tube under his nose, IV pole next to him. Jessica sat in the corner scrolling her phone. Mom stood when she saw me. Ryan, she said softly. I nodded at her, then looked at Dad. He waved Jessica and Mom out. Give us a minute, he said, voice rough like gravel. When the door closed, he looked at me a long time. I get it now, he said finally, voice shaking. Watching someone fade like this. It's different when it's you lying here. I didn't say anything. I was wrong, he said. About Noah. About all of it. I thought I was being practical, that there'd be time to fix things later. He shook his head. There isn't. I stood by the window. Too late now, I said. He nodded slowly. I know. We sat in silence a while, just the monitor beeping. I'm sorry, he said finally. I didn't answer right away. I'm not asking you to forgive me, he said. I just needed to say it before I can't. I looked at him then. Old man in a hospital bed. Skin pale, hands trembling. The same man who told me 45 grand was too much for a dying kid while wiring 10 times that for Jessica's house. I hope it doesn't hurt as much for you, I said finally, as it did for him. His eyes closed for a second. Hurts worse, he whispered. I left before Mom came back in. Dad lasted 3 more months. Funeral was small. Closed casket, just like Noah's. Jessica spoke to me afterward in the parking lot. Said Brad moved out for good. Kids were staying with her in a rental now. She was working at the dental office part-time. Everything's different, she said, like she couldn't believe it herself. Yeah, I said. Ryan, she started, then stopped. I didn't ask what she wanted to say. By summer, the Noah's Way Fund had grown. People donated through Facebook, church drives. Even my warehouse coworkers tossed cash in a coffee can near the time clock. We'd helped 6 families by then. Gas cards, hotel rooms, groceries when they had to stay near the hospital for weeks at a time. Little stuff, but I knew from experience it wasn't little when you were living it. One mom sent a letter with a picture of her son holding up a new backpack. Said they used our gas cards to get him to every appointment on time. I taped it to my fridge. Late August, I drove to the cemetery. First time in months. Brought fresh flowers, yellow because Noah liked yellow. Gravel crunched under my boots as I walked to his spot. Same small headstone. Same little dinosaur figurine Leah left last time. But now there was another stone beside it. New, my father's name carved into it. Birth year, death year. A single line underneath. Beloved husband and father. Mom chose a family plot and had him laid beside Noah. I stood there a long time looking at the 2 graves side by side. The innocent boy and the man who chose the wrong thing until it was too late. I set the flowers down at Noah's grave, then sat on the bench. Hey, buddy, I said quietly. We helped another family this week. Kid named Alex. Got them gas cards, hotel vouchers. His mom said it made everything easier. Wind moved through the trees. I told him about the fundraiser, about people giving money in his name, about how Leah handled the Facebook page because I was no good at updates, about how Dad had wanted to see me at the end. Said he was sorry. Said he finally understood. Footsteps crunched behind me. I turned. Leah stood there holding a small bunch of wildflowers. Hey, she said. Hey. She placed her flowers between the 2 graves, then sat on the bench beside me. We didn't talk at first, just looked at the headstones, the grass still worn from Dad's funeral a month ago. Finally, she said, I saw the fundraiser total. You've been busy. Yeah, I said. Feels better doing something useful. She nodded. My parents said thanks for paying off the mortgage. I shrugged. Wasn't my money, just owed. We sat quiet again. After a while, she said, Dad asked for you, didn't he? Before the end? Yeah, I said. I'm glad you went, she said. I didn't answer. We stayed until the sun dropped low, both of us staring at the 2 graves side by side. When we finally stood, she smiled faintly. See you around, Ryan. Yeah, I said. See you. She walked one way. I walked the other. For the first time in a long time, the weight on my chest felt just a little lighter. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.